Okay, we're back again for another episode of the Appleton Team podcast, and I don't have Kellyanne with me here today, but I do have a really special guest that I'm excited to have today to talk to. So I have Jen Walker here, and she's going to talk to us about being a mortgage broker, all things mortgages. So Jen, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's amazing to have guests that come into the show that have a lot more knowledge on certain aspects of the business that we don't have. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So my name's Jen Walker. I work for the mortgage group. I've been in the industry for about 4 years now, and I really do focus specifically on the Chatham-Kent area. So, working with people who are either purchasing or refinancing, doing renewals, especially first-time home buyers. That's one of my specialties. I love working with first-time home buyers. So kind of anyone in that realm who's looking at getting a mortgage, I'd be able to assist them with that.
Okay, perfect. And I know that we've done lots of business together. I know how good you are at what you do. And Jen really does care about her clients. And you and I have had, I don't know how many phone calls trying to figure things out for people. So she's a great person to talk to. So I want to get right into the meat and potatoes. What everybody wants to know is, what are the rates? What's kind of that, where's the sweet spot, et cetera. So what are you seeing from different lenders right now as to rates?
Yeah. So, as we know, kind of rates fluctuate, right? And so they actually fixed rates have come down just a little bit over the last few weeks. So we're in late January right now. They've come down a little bit. So I would say kind of the sweet spot would be high 3s, low 4s. Now that would be your prime situation, less than 20% or more than 35%. But anything, if you're looking at purchasing, if you can get in the low 4s, that's very competitive right now.
Okay. And in like that fixed versus variable scenario, like, are you seeing that people are tending to go one way or another, or?
So I would say there's a little glimpse of more people going with variable these days.
Okay.
However, realistically, the majority of people are still sticking with fixed. The big question right now is when it comes to a fixed rate 3 versus a 5-year. And again, that's kind of preference. People are looking down the road at what's going to happen with the election in a few years, and what that's going to bring. And so I think people are often leaning towards 3-year fixed rates more so than 5 years at this point.
Okay.
However, we are seeing a little bit, more variables coming into play, but it just depends on your risk level.
Okay. And for those of the people that don't know, can you explain just very quickly, what a fixed rate mortgage is and what a variable rate mortgage is?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, the big thing around rates, one thing I always like to tell people is your variable rate mortgages are related to the Bank of Canada announcements. These happen 8 times a year, and it's really important to know that that's strictly to do with variable. When it comes to fixed rates are, related to your bond yields. And so when bond yields go up, fixed rates go up. When they come down, fixed rates come down. And so a fixed rate is going to be when you purchase a home and you get your mortgage payment, you are going to be paying the same amount all the way through until that term is complete. Whereas if you get a variable rate, there's 2 types of variable rates if we really kind of want to get into it. But the more common variable rate is an adjustable rate where your mortgage payment may change month by month depending on what the prime rate is at that time.
Okay. So the fixed rate probably is more for people who want security, like I know what my payment's going to be, et cetera, but you're probably not getting the best deal, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whereas the variable, there's a little bit more risk, but if things improve with rates, then you kind of reap the rewards. Is that kind of...
Exactly. And historically, variable rate is the way to go.
Yeah.
But, we're still seeing some people kind of afraid to take action on that because of the last few years with it increasing so quickly. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. If you are you just want safe, reliable, those consistent payments, fixed would be the way to go. If you're okay with a little bit more risk, again, In this market, it's not super risky, but if you're okay with a little bit more risk, then I would say variable rate is probably your best option. You will most likely get in the 3s right now with variable rate.
Awesome. Okay. And so kind of going on, let's build on that. So when it comes to rates, getting mortgages, etc., so the buyers who are getting into the market right now, the market is very, I'll say, unpredictable. It's not, we don't really know what's happening. And I'm sure that there are people that are probably making some mistakes along the way when they're trying to qualify for the mortgage, etc. So are there any big buyer mistakes that you're seeing that maybe some red flags that come up that you as a mortgage broker, you're just kind of like, you know, like, are there things that come up for you that if you wanted, you know, people to know, don't do these things? Are there anything like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big one that I'm sure we both preach all the time is making sure everyone gets a pre-approval in advance. One thing that I have seen a little bit more lately is maybe someone received a pre-approval 2 or 3 years ago. They weren't ready to buy. They kind of just waited it out. And then they've come back and found a house and put an offer in. But of course, that pre-approval has expired. Things have changed in the market. Rates have changed. Maybe job has changed. And so they're kind of coming in hot. But not fully prepared. So, I mean, of course, that's one thing we always say is make sure you're getting an up-to-date pre-approval that's valid upon putting an offer into a home.
And I've also seen, I don't know if you see this too, that sometimes people don't really pay too much attention to, like they pay attention to the purchase price, but aren't there other things that kind of play into like ratios and stuff like that? Like say property taxes and and somebody's like, well, this fits my criteria, but the property tax bill might be a little bit higher than normal and it throws things off. Like, can that happen?
Absolutely. Property taxes are a big one. Condo fees are another really big one. Condo fees can be a killer on a deal. And it's unfortunate because more often than not, condos are a little bit cheaper. So people think it's within their realm of buying. But as soon as you throw those condo fees in, it can have a huge impact on debt ratios.
Yeah. And you're still paying property tax too.
Exactly.
So there's
it's kind of a double whammy there.
Yeah. So you mentioned pre-approval. So a pre-approval, like what would, if you had to define what a pre-approval is, like how would you define that?
Yeah. So a pre-approval is if your broker is giving you a pre-approval correctly, what they're doing is they're getting all of your documents up front. They're getting the application put together, reviewing everything and pulling credit. Once all of that is put together, you've got a full application, and then that pre-approval is sent over to the lender. Now, the one thing is it's not a guarantee to, so I'll back up. What's going to happen is the lender's going to shoot back a pre-approval certificate. Okay. The lender, in most cases, they are not reviewing this application at all. They're pretty much giving you a rate hold. So you've got this pre-approval in place, and that pre-approval will outline, or it should outline, what your purchasing power is, how much you can buy for, what your down payment is, and what your rate hold will be. And that will last 120 days.
Okay.
Yep. So within that 120 days, if you buy, then you're guaranteed. Sorry, I shouldn't say you're guaranteed, but you would be able to kind of take a look at those, what you were offered, and pending nothing else has changed. So employment has stayed the same. Debt load has stayed the same. Credit bureau has stayed the same. Then more often than not, you will be good to go to purchase at that price point.
So that's your pre-approval. So that's like prior to making an offer on a property. So let's say you've submitted an offer, conditional on financing and inspection, and you did the home inspection. That's all good. So you just have your financing condition. And so for those of you who don't know, when we reference like a condition of financing, essentially is what we're saying is just that deal that you're purchasing a home is conditional upon you securing your mortgage. It's just people call it financing in our industry. But so when somebody submits the offer, it's conditionally sold pending the financing. They would send all of that information to you, or maybe the realtor would, like the agreement of purchase and sale, which is the offer itself, probably the MLS sheet, right? Yep. That outlines some of those particulars. And then assuming everything goes well with the lender, they issue, what is it called? Like a letter of commitment or something?
Yes.
Okay. So what does that entail?
Yeah, so that will exactly, I'm glad you explained it the way you did, because it's pretty much, I have everything already in place. And then I get those additional documents from the realtor. I submit that over to the lender. And then within a few days, I usually get the commitment letter. And this outlines, this is an approval pending the additional conditions are fulfilled. So the additional conditions would be reviewing income documents. That's when the lender is asking for the MLS and the offer. And pretty much what's happening is the lender's cross-referencing all the documents, ensuring everything that I've said and that the client has told me is good to go. And then once I submit everything back to the lender, once we have that commitment signed off, they're going to review it all. And as long as all those conditions are fulfilled, it becomes broker complete.
Okay. Yeah. And so I guess that's a good point, because is it possible for someone to have a pre-approval and then to get that letter of commitment? And you said that letter of commitment still has conditions. You hear that a lot in real estate. There's conditions to everything. So even though you get a letter of commitment, which sounds very official, it still means that it's not a done deal, right?
And this is one thing that it's really important to know. Just because you have that commitment does not mean you can go and waive your condition of financing. It's really, really important that you do still walk through with your broker and complete the rest of those conditions in order to then have that final approval. So don't be waiving, don't go waive any condition of financing until your broker has given you the final go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So that when you say broker complete, that means all those conditions have been fulfilled. Essentially, the lender is saying, you got it. We're giving you the money.
Exactly.
Like, you're good.
Yep. I always tell clients that's when it's kind of out of my hands and passed off to the lawyer. So we fulfilled everything. The realtors fulfilled everything. I fulfilled everything. And now it's up to the lawyer or the solicitor to complete the rest of their conditions.
Okay. So there's basically 3 stages: that pre-approval, the letter of commitment, and then the broker complete stage. So you're not really in the clear until you hit the broker complete stage. So that's really important to know, because that's something that I didn't even really know prior to getting some experience in the business and talking to mortgage brokers such as yourself to explain that whole process. So that kind of brings me to my next topic is mortgage brokers in particular. So I'm speaking to a mortgage broker right now, but I want to know from you, what do you think makes a good mortgage broker? Because there are, just like realtors, there's lots of mortgage brokers, and there are plenty of really good ones and plenty that aren't so great. And so if you had to explain kind of what you thought the best qualities were of a good mortgage broker, what would they be? And for fun, I'm going to let you answer first. And then I've dealt with a lot of mortgage brokers too. And so I'll tell you what I think after you explain what you think. So the floor is yours.
Okay. So again, there's a few things. I think that open communication between both, between the realtor, the client or the buyer, and then the broker are super important. It's getting tougher and tougher to get a mortgage these days. So everyone needs to be really upfront with what the goals are and not hiding anything. And also, as a broker, this is an extremely difficult, massive, purchase and for clients. So they need to understand that I'm in their corner the whole way through. I'm there to support them. And also I'm there to have open communication when they need it. So, if I get a text after hours, or I think boundaries are important in some sense, but 100%. I also know it can be an extremely difficult and stressful process for clients. Yep. And so if they need to text me on the weekend or give me a call or send me emails whenever, I'm fully open to that because the last thing I would want is to be putting them in a bad position where, maybe they put an offer in and it goes sideways. So I would say that open communication is the first thing. And then just being resourceful, making sure that whoever you're working with is willing to go to bat for you and pick up the call and call all the lenders that, that may be able able to help this certain situation. Not everyone is a straightforward salaried, employee with a big down payment.
Yeah.
It is getting trickier for people to get mortgages. So I just want, I want people to be aware that if they call me, I am going to do whatever I can to ensure that they can make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to build off of that. So if I had to say one thing, I would probably just almost kind of like realtors in the sense that a good mortgage broker for me is somebody who can be a problem solver. Because as you know, most real estate transactions are not straightforward. When we do have straightforward ones, you're like, awesome. Yeah. Because it doesn't happen all the time. Usually there's some sort of hiccups along the way, right? But somebody who's a problem solver. So if something comes up, and it's like, hey, we're on a time crunch and this came up and I need you to figure something out. I need you to make some calls, etc. That a good mortgage broker is going to do that immediately. And so, I have talked to people who don't do that. And it can create a lot of stress for clients, as we've seen. And people kind of feel like they're left on an island a little bit by the person that they're working with. So, but I also, a mortgage broker who, how do I say this? Somebody who is just, is there to counsel you in the sense that they're saying, I'm an expert. I know exactly what you need to do. Follow my direction and just like, I'll give you the instruction, right? And so somebody who's very straightforward about those things and is honest, right? Because sometimes you're going to see things that come up that you're like, I don't know if this is going to work for you. And I want you to know right away that that's, I'm looking out for you. I'm looking out for your best interest, even though it's maybe not what you want to hear. Those would be my kind of top things. And I know that you have those qualities. I highly respect the work that you do and how you do it. Jen's very good at what she does, and I've seen that. So you also mentioned too that there are a few things that come up, and this is kind of I'm just going to go right into our next segment, and this is kind of a fun segment. This is the fire round. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to throw at you a couple of statements that I've heard before. And I want you to tell me in like 20 to 30 seconds what you think about that.
Okay.
It could be totally you agree with it, or you say, no, that's dead wrong. I totally disagree with that, and here's why. So, first one, you need 20% down to buy a house.
No, definitely not. The minimum is 5%. And it's also important to know that you can access a 5% down payment, even not as a first-time home buyer. So you don't have to be a first-time home buyer to be able to get this, which is, I think, oftentimes a misconception.
Okay. What about if you were self-employed? If you're self-employed, that means you're not getting a mortgage. If you don't get a typical T4, you're done for.
No, definitely not. Again, this is something that obviously we're both self-employed and have mortgages. So sometimes it does become just one thing, I guess, to make note of is if you are self-employed and you want to stick with an A lender, we will be looking at your T1 General's net income. So oftentimes I say if you're self-employed looking to purchase, work with your accountant as well as a mortgage broker so we can kind of all figure out kind of what the best situation is there when it comes to tax time.
Okay. What about if you change jobs? Can you buy when you don't have large job history? Like if you were to change jobs?
Not the ideal situation.
Okay.
So again, it really does vary based on the situation. But if kind of what we were talking about before, if you've gotten a pre-approval based on one job and you've switched jobs throughout that time, it's not going to look overly favorable for you. So if you can remain consistent with your income, that's the ideal situation. Again, there's sometimes ways around it. So it's not ruling you out completely, but it may create challenges.
Okay. This is my favorite one. Your bank gives you the best mortgage rate.
So banks, of course, want to hold on to their clients. They want that client retention. So they will say whatever they need to say to keep those clients. However, no, not necessarily true. That is why, I'm a broker. I have access to about 50 lenders. And so I will do the shopping for you. Like I'll do the shopping for the client to ensure that they're getting the best rate possible.
Okay. And I'm going to add a little one on here too, that is it true that from my experience, I have found that traditional banks, whether it be, RBC, the big ones, I have found that they're not entirely fast when it comes to mortgage applications, probably because they've got a stack, huge. Is that true? Like, do you find that, like, you hear people talking about that, hey, my bank just has not gotten back to me and I can't even get a pre-approval or like, is that true?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of my clients, especially first-time home buyers, because I think that oftentimes they will go into a bank just because that's what they know.
It's familiar.
Right? Yeah. So they go into their bank and then I end up getting them a few weeks down the road because they're just not hearing from their bank. And so it becomes a really frustrating situation and all they want are answers and, they're trying to get in touch with them. And then of course I've got the realtors calling me saying what's going on. And then it puts kind of everyone in a bad spot because especially if an offer has been placed, that means I have to really rush the application and the file. And that means I'm putting strain on my lenders as well. So it kind of is this domino effect. So yes, I see that quite a bit. And the one thing to note is I do have access to banks. So I can be that middleman as well. You don't have to go directly into a branch to be able to work specifically with those banks.
Yeah, because that's a good point, because I wasn't even thinking about that, but I've heard people say before, well, I don't want to work with a mortgage broker because they just deal with B lenders or, et cetera. And I think like, no, that's not true. I think it's always best to work with a mortgage broker. Like that's just my opinion from experience dealing with so many different clients who are trying to get financing, because mortgage brokers, you've got some skin in the game. And so I find that mortgage brokers are much quicker to get you the best rate. They're really the ones who are fighting for you, as opposed to somebody who maybe just works at the bank and just kind of like, that's all we can do, or these are our timelines, right? There's never really anything better. That a mortgage broker kind of can be like, hey, if such and such lender isn't getting back to me, then I'm just going somewhere else and I'll keep shopping that for you. So I just think that's so beneficial to
absolutely
to a buyer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the same thing. I mean, I've always worked with mortgage brokers even before I was in the industry. And I think again, it goes back to the client can access us whenever they need, right? And I think that's really, really important because you never know what's going to come up in this, if you're purchasing a home. And to have to wait around, I think no one likes to wait, right?
Oh, yeah.
They want instant answers.
Yep.
So, and then again, finding the best product. Again, it's not always about the rate. I know rate's really important, but it's not always about the rate. I think finding the best product for that client, looking years down the road, what's that going to look like for you? Especially, is there going to be penalties in place? And all these kind of pieces that kind of come together, we have the ability to take a look at that. And even well after the mortgage closes, you can reach out to us anytime and, we'll answer any questions. And having those relationships with the lenders, we can get things done very quickly if we need to.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
You speaking to a lender versus me, it's a totally different scenario. Yeah. You speaking to an underwriter versus, somebody else, it does make a big difference. And, know who you know and just having those professional connections can really, really help. So one final thing, I'm going to give you your soapbox and I'm going to ask you if there was one thing or maybe a couple things that you could just shout from the mountaintops as a mortgage broker that you would want people to know, what is it? And now is your time to say that.
Yeah, I think the main thing is when you're out again, this is probably one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life is purchasing a home. So you want to be working with someone that you can trust, that you know is going to be in your corner. So go to, if you have to kind of interview mortgage brokers or, that's okay. That's no problem. But when you put your trust into that broker, let them take you the whole way through. It's really important that you're not shopping around at that point, because that's when things kind of get over complicated, more credits being pulled than we would really need you to pull. It's just lots of little pieces. So trust your mortgage agent, know that they're going to do the right thing for you. And if you do have any issues, talk to your realtor about it and see if there's any kind of wiggle room there to make sure you're getting the best possible service.
Perfect. I really, really appreciate you being here, because these are things that I have had to learn over the course of, multiple years now. And over the course of 25 minutes here, you've given us a ton of knowledge about how mortgage brokers work, some of the big things that you come across and what buyers are going to come across. So we really, really appreciate you being here. It's just amazing to have somebody with lots of education and can convey that to us. So I really, really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you. This was great. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, that's it for today. So if you want to check out Jen and all the services that she provides, how could they find you?
I guess there's a few ways.
Yeah.
So Instagram, I think, is a big one these days. So Mortgages by Jen Walker, Jen, Jen. My email is jen@taylormortgages.ca. I guess phone number.
Yeah.
519-719-4100.
Perfect. Well, reach out to Jen if you have any sort of mortgage needs. And thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.